You send the text. 3 words, maybe less. And for about 4 seconds you feel fine, until you glance back down and see it. Delivered. Not read. Delivered. And something in your chest quietly drops the floor. You didn't do anything wrong. You're not being dramatic. This reaction has a name, and it's a lot more common than the group chat makes it feel, because nobody posts about refreshing their messages 9 times in a row. Here's the part that actually doesn't make sense on the surface. Delivered is more information than you had a second ago. You went from knowing nothing to knowing your message physically reached their phone. That should feel like progress. Instead, it feels worse. And once you understand why, the whole thing stops feeling like a personal flaw and starts feeling like a pattern you can actually work with. Psychologists who study this describe unanswered messages as something that doesn't feel resolved to your brain. It stays mentally active, the same way an unfinished task keeps tugging at your attention, even when you're trying to focus on something else. A conversation that hasn't landed yet isn't filed away as done. It's filed as pending, and your brain checks pending folders a lot more than finished ones. That's why you're not choosing to think about it every 4 minutes. It's choosing you. If your message had never sent at all, your brain has an easy out. Maybe it didn't go through. But delivered removes that escape hatch. Now you know it landed. Now the silence isn't a technical glitch, it's a choice. And your brain, without asking your permission, starts filling in what that choice means. In person, silence has context. A pause before someone answers can mean they're thinking or laughing or genuinely didn't hear you. Texting deletes all of that. You're left with a blank status bar and whatever story your brain decides to write to fill the gap. And it is almost never the boring, accurate one. A researcher who studies how people manage relationships through technology, Bree McEwen of DePaul University, points out that texting is uncertain almost by design because texting etiquette was never standardized. There's no shared rulebook for how long is too long. So the anxious brain writes its own rulebook, usually one with much stricter deadlines than anyone actually agreed to. Somewhere out there, the person who left you undelivered is just in the shower, or driving, or, unforgivably, living their life without checking their phone every 90 seconds like a normal, well-adjusted person. The audacity! But let's be honest, this isn't a flat universal reaction. Some people glance at delivered and shrug. Others spiral into a full internal trial with themselves as both defendant and prosecutor. That gap usually isn't about the text. It's about what silence used to mean, long before phones existed. People with a history of relational unpredictability, where connection sometimes felt reliable and sometimes didn't, tend to read ambiguous silence as a louder threat signal than people whose early relationships felt more consistently safe. That's not a character flaw. That's a nervous system that learned, early and honestly, to take uncertainty seriously. It was protecting you once. It's just still doing the job a little too well on a group chat in 2026. And here's the part that might actually surprise you. This isn't some rare, oversensitive, niche experience. In one survey cited by the World Economic Forum, roughly 3 in 10 people said texting itself was a real, ongoing source of daily anxiety for them. Not a passing annoyance, an actual daily stressor. If you've ever felt a little embarrassed about how much a gray, delivered tag can wreck your focus for the next 20 minutes, you're in more company than the silence makes it feel like. And of course, the story your brain writes in that gap is never, "They're probably just busy." It's a full miniseries. Betrayal, regret. A monologue you didn't even say out loud, being performed for an audience of exactly one very tired nervous system. So here's the real question underneath all of it. It's not really, why haven't they replied? It's what do I actually need right now that a reply from someone else was never fully going to give me, because the panic was never really about 3 gray words on a screen. It was about sitting in uncertainty without a clear ending. And your brain hates unfinished endings more than it hates almost anything else. Delivered didn't create that feeling. It just gave it somewhere to land. This doesn't mean the anxiety disappears the second you understand it. It doesn't. The next time you're staring at delivered, your chest is probably still going to tighten a little. But there's a difference between a feeling that controls you and a feeling you can recognize while it's happening. This is the open loop feeling. This is my brain hating uncertainty, not evidence that something's actually wrong. That one sentence, said honestly to yourself, tends to buy back a surprising amount of calm. So next time you send that text and watch it sit there, delivered, not read, notice what your body does before your mind writes the story. That reaction isn't proof of anything about the other person. It's a map of how your nervous system learned to survive not knowing. And once you can see the map, you get to decide how much of the drive you actually hand it. If you've ever caught yourself checking a delivered text for the 9th time in 10 minutes, that's basically the whole reason this channel exists. The small, weird, very human stuff nobody explains out loud. If this one felt familiar, there's a whole series here built around exactly that. See you in the next one.